All right, we got that one going. Got that one going. And all right. All right, we are here together for Mary Minyard's observation video 1. My L number is 206-45197. We are here today to discuss a needs assessment for our students at Alcove Trails Middle School. We use the TAPER data to come up with some conversational pieces, and we are going to be discussing our at-risk economically disadvantaged students. So again, my name is Mary Minyard. I am the intern. I teach 6th grade science at Alcove Trails Middle School. This is my 14th year teaching. All of my grade levels have been in 6th grade, taught everything from math, science, and social studies. I have with me 4 of my coworkers on my grade level, all with varying contents that they each teach, and of course, varying levels of experience. So I'm gonna let y'all introduce yourselves, ladies.
I'm Lacey Hanson. I currently teach 6th grade reading. I have taught kindergarten, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, K through 5 art, and 7th grade reading. And I've been teaching for almost 12 years.
Hi, I'm Emma Baldwin. This is my 4th year teaching. I teach 6th grade math, and previously I've taught 8th grade math and science. I'm Amy Cloud, and I teach 6th grade reading. This is my 11th year. I've taught 2nd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and now 6th grade, all reading language arts.
Hi, I'm Paula James. I have 11 years of experience. I currently teach 6th grade social studies. I've done 4th grade math and K through 5 reading and math intervention.
Perfect. I'm so thankful to have y'all here helping me out. We're definitely gonna get you hooked up with coffee and donuts tomorrow. So Starbucks is on the way. We're gonna talk about a couple of norms that I have prepared for us today for our conversations. Let's stay on task, have deep conversations, and hopefully we gain like meaningful discourse throughout this entire thing. So what I want you guys to do is talk to me about what are some achievement issues that you have noticed with your economically disadvantaged at-risk populations? What are some issues you've noticed as far as their achievement goes? And anybody feel free to step in and chime in.
Before coming to Friendship, I didn't have a lot of low socioeconomic students. So the last 4 years have been a very interesting learning curve. I was in a more expensive area in Waxahachie, so having students be motivated at school, like just to be there, to be happy to be there, or to be excited to learn, that was a hard, vastly different option from where I came from to here. So motivation's been very interesting.
And I have the same experience too, coming from Frisco ISD, just where families are a little more well off, there's more resources for families to get their hands on. So it's definitely, this last month has been, I've shown a lot of growth, but I've also I've seen some challenges where I'm like, how can I grow as a teacher? So I'm in the same boat with you on that as well.
I'm kind of the other spectrum. This is the first school I've taught in that wasn't a Title I or a economically disadvantaged group. So I think the focus is different. Like it's more like how can we meet this child's needs emotionally and academically, more of that focus than in a school where you don't really have to worry about the emotional as much.
And I feel that too, because when I would step in the classroom in Frisco, those kids didn't need me.
Right.
I was there to facilitate their learning, but at the end of the day, they went home to families that we're there for them and may not have had as many hardships as a lot of the kids that we see today. So that, is a learning curve for me as well.
Well, and I think part of it is these kids are probably at a higher learning target than what their parents were. Like a lot of my kids, like their parents can't help them with their homework, they can't help them with their math. And so it's hard to help them grow when they're already above what their parents.
And a principal I had when I first moved here, because I was so shocked by the mobility. Like they're at one school for a couple of weeks or months and then they moved to another school. And it's the high mobility rate, the fluctuation of their placement because of wherever they're moving. But a principal told me, she said, most parents, especially in this kind of situation, don't have a happy association with education. So they don't project that onto they project that onto their kids, so their kid has a similar feeling, even though they are farther in the educational process.
Like, I hear you on that. What do we do, like, as a staff to address that? Like, how can we help these kids, even though they may only be with us for a month or two? Like, what do we need to do to try to, yeah,
I think because you're not really gonna see a ton of growth within that month or two that you have those kids. I mean, you could see some, but it's gonna be very difficult because you don't know where they're coming from and they've bounced around so much, there's no stability. But something that I learned is strictly like just giving that kid value and loving on that kid. Like, yes, you're their teacher and you're there to help them. But if you just give that kid value, then I've noticed you see a lot more growth academically.
So in a classroom where you could have a GT level student to a resource level student to at-risk, ECDIS, all of the sub-pops, what does it look like in your classroom to meet all of the varying levels of needs? I know some of us have honors classes where those kids are already a little bit separated from on level, but in a class like that, what is your go-to for meeting their individualized needs?
I think some little simple things like not giving them a hard time for not having a pencil. Or maybe they're not quite got everything together that day. Like, understanding that and knowing, I don't know what this kid came from this morning, but they're in my class. So what can I do with the 60 minutes that I have on board? What needs can I meet that are easy? Yeah, that's going to help them feel assisted.
Yeah, I've dumped out backpacks before and dug out a basket of folders and labeled folders and, okay, this is gonna now be your science folder, this is gonna be your social studies folder. Just so that they can see, okay, I can be organized and it not take a lot of effort. Because if they are struggling just to have a pencil each day, then they're struggling to put a paper where it needs to go. So just meeting those like super simple.
It's like a feeling of like defeat. Like
Yeah.
if they can get the pencil and the backpack organized, then maybe all that stuff can fall better into place.
Well, and it's just showing them like this isn't hard, but it will help you, especially if they don't have a good association. Every school,
But at the same time, not doing it all for them.
sure.
Teaching them, okay, this is how we organize it. Like she put together all those folders. Now you are going to use this, and holding that expectation. Because they've got to learn how to deal with their situations.
Yes. Okay, so we have in front of us the TAPER data report. If y'all can go to page 19 in that. So one thing that I noticed on our TAPER report is, and this data is from 2023, 2024. We don't have last year's data up and running, but we have that year, total students 432, and then you can see about halfway down that 52% of that total student enrollment is represented by economically disadvantaged students. So 52%. With numbers like that, how does this affect a campus and its growth and just its overall being? What are y'all's thoughts on that? How can we meet the needs of 52%, more than half of a campus? Because the campus I came from, the percentage was like 8%, and that was on an off year. So I know you guys have experience more so than I do in working at campuses like this. How can we address this and support our students?
So my previous campus was like 87%.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like the little things of, like, I mean, of course, they would get snack bags on Fridays to take home, but a lot of them come, like, the only meal they get is at school. And so we had breakfast in our classrooms every morning, and then everybody got free lunch, but a lot of the times it was, I kept food in the back of my classroom because they're not getting anything done if they're hungry. And then a lot of the times with that being the case, the kids were tired because they were having to be their parents' babysitters for their overnight jobs. And so it's the flexibility of understanding where they're coming from and helping them find solutions to that. And so it would be, maybe they got to sleep during my class, but then they came to eat lunch with me and then worked out whatever work it was together, because they're not going to learn if they're tired or not. So I always have food and the kids always have it's like, it might be easy back in the back of my classroom if they could just go. Just because so many of them were, the biggest issue was hunger. And then we had a room where like, a lot of our kids, their clothes didn't get washed and they came to school dirty and like, in particular, there was this little girl, every day she would come to school, her hair is a mess. She was in first grade. The teacher took the time. She would come in before school. She would make her hair and braid her hair and then have a clean pair of clothes for her that we got from communities and schools. So, I mean, you're never meeting anything if you can't make sure that they're not hungry and that they're clothed and they feel good about themselves. So we really made it an effort to, hey, we have this, and like churches would donate food so that the teachers weren't having to buy everything out of, but we kept stuff for the kids. And so that was a lot of what we did.
You talked about communities and schools. That's something, we had a different verbiage for it in Frisco. Can y'all talk more about that and what that looks like at the campus level and how that organization supports students?
So what communities and schools is we have a rep that comes in and like they're hired by like the district sort of, like ours had at my last campus, she had a room. And she would, like, parents would fill out paperwork, she would pull these kids for lunch groups, she would meet with them, she would talk to the families. So like these are kids that would get angel tree gifts, they would get Thanksgiving boxes. And so it's just an outside source that we can use to help pay electric bills. We can help, hey, they don't have water, things like that. And so it's just an outside source that helps not just take care of the kid at the school, but the family as well at home. So, and it would be across campuses. And so like we would have part of the siblings at our school, but in the middle school. And so those people would talk across campus to make sure that all of the kids would take care, as well as the adults. Sometimes we took care of the adults.
Aren't they funded by United Way? Or partially funded?
Partially funded. I know that like United Way does, and like when we've given, we've always made sure that 100% of our stuff goes to communities and schools because we've seen it in action. So they are a nonprofit.
And then you mentioned instructionally, like you may during a class period have had a kid that they needed to just get a little rest, and then you would pull them in during lunch to work with them. Did you ever have the opportunity to work with these kids either before or after school?
Yes, like so my bus kids would come in, like they would know, hey, I couldn't work at home because of the internet, or like my parents couldn't help me. Like my door was always from like when the buses got there at 7 to 7:30. Like kids could just come down the hallway, and so I would help before school on this.
So it sounds like you're putting in a whole lot more effort than the average teacher. From my experience, what does that do to a teacher mentally, like putting in that extra effort? Like, where does the time give? Because you also have to have time for your own personal life. So can
That's
you
where it
speak-
gives.
Yep.
That's where it
That's
gives.
exactly
You don't
right.
have it for your own family or your own. mental stability or whatever, like that's where it goes on where to fill your cup, or like I would go home and I had an infant when I first moved here and I was dealing with students like this that needed everything. And then I would go home and I'd be so exhausted from that. But then I had to turn around and feed all night long or diaper or, she'd have an ear infection and then I'd be out for a couple of days. Well, then I'm thinking about somebody else's kids who aren't eating or not being bathed or whatever. You give it up somewhere else. And it, unfortunately,
It's
that
so
take
much
the
more
hit.
than just- That's like the side. It's being mom, being counselor, being nurse, being, it's all of it.
All of the things. Okay, I want to take a look at on page 4 in our taper data, specifically math and reading test scores from this school year. So at the top, this one, we don't have the tagline at the top of page 4, but that's for 6th grade reading, just carries over into the next page. So in year 2024, the state for 6th grade reading scored a 77%. That was the overall average. But if you notice at the far right, our ECDIS, our economically disadvantaged students, at approaches grade level or above, we're only at 64%. Meets, the state was at 57. In our campus for economically disadvantaged students was at 43%. As instructional leaders, when you guys, especially my reading teachers, I don't have reading background, so they are the full experts here. When you are looking at data and you see this, like what for you guys is the biggest challenge when you're looking at this data and seeing that our economically disadvantaged kids are below more than 10% in both of these categories? What would your focus be with instruction and instruction that's geared toward those economically disadvantaged students? Like, what would an example lesson look like to try to help fill some of their gaps?
Well, I do want to mention that you left off masters.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And I think economically disadvantaged having any student in
Any
master's
student.
category is awesome.
So Ms. Hanson pointed out that I forgot masters, so thank you for that. So the state in 6th grade reading was at a 26%, and our campus was 13%. So she was just saying that's
That's a
an
win.
accomplishment.
Yeah,
That's a win.
Depending on what we're working on, sometimes you want to assess what they already know. Because you don't want to make everybody start on what is a noun if this group already knows what a noun is.
So you're talking like pre-assessment,
Yes.
kind of front load, see what they know and then build from there?
Yes. And then, after we've kind of pre-assessed, we can, decide, okay, maybe this group who has already gotten this content, maybe we give them a harder text. And maybe we take this group with a lower text and we really dig into what that skill is. Whereas this group, okay, they've kind of already got it figured out, we're gonna let them try it. And then see if they need, some reassurance or some support after. And we'll focus on those kids that need more upfront.
Absolutely. I also think one thing we do is not assuming they know
The things they
everything
should know.
that we're about to see. And so backing up a little bit, kind of front loading some information they're gonna need to make sure they know, review it. So that when we can start our text, they've got this knowledge that they can use
They've
to
got
apply.
the base.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And all reading teaks are very cyclical and they're very much the same for every grade level, except the verb changes or the level of difficulty increases. But they're very similar. So stuff that they've been seeing since first grade comes back around in 6th grade. So if they don't know a common noun versus a proper noun, if they don't know what plot is or the setting is, it's gonna affect them. So we can't assume that they remember or that they want to talk.
I think too, a lot of, you know, their partner at the table, working together for something,
Yes.
demonstrating, modeling, and they do it together
Right.
before they ever touch it.
So the math, star data. So sixth grade math in 2024 at approaches grade level or above, the state was at 72%. Economically disadvantaged was at 65%. The state was at meets grade level or above at 39%, and our sixth graders were 17%. And then not forgetting the master's grade level, state was at 14 and our campus was at 0%. So our economically disadvantaged students, no students scored masters in math. So we have a former math teacher and then a current math teacher. Can y'all speak to these numbers and what this looks like in your classrooms?
Can I point out something?
Yes,
Even though I don't
please.
teach math, I want to point out, like, this was the very first year that this school was open. So we weren't at capacity, we didn't have enough teachers, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So there were some things that were not in place, like we did not have communities in schools our first year. That, we didn't get that till last year. So some of those things, meeting of needs, wasn't getting done.
So just a side note, this is the third year Alcove Trails Middle School has been open. It's in Friendship ISD, which is in Lubbock. So again, like Ms. Cloud said, this data was from the first year Alcove Trails was open, and we were not at capacity, nearly. We're not even near it now.
Right.
Okay, so can talk more math related? Y'all have anything to share, or just any side notes?
Well, I think math is like a second language. And so the kids who aren't getting their like main needs met, they can move on just like in any other subject, but I think they're more struggling with, I'm learning completely new skills and rewiring different parts of my brain. And that's just like a secondary or a tertiary level or need. And so school really comes last. And so for a lot of these parents of these children, they may not have like finished middle school
Yeah.
or finished high school. So they also didn't get those maths. So they're not getting that help at home. And with math being that skill, you constantly practice. Like with reading, you constantly have to read in order to get better. And if they're not practicing, then that skill's not being mastered. So it would make complete sense that no students mastered their grade level, especially if they're not getting community in schools or any of that, like primary needs math.
And I don't teach math, and I haven't taught math since being in this district, but I taught math when I taught second grade, and I feel like the content moves so much faster.
It does.
It's so much more
The
rapid, and the amount.
The amount of standards that are in the little time.
Yes. And especially here, I feel like y'all are taking, I don't know this to be true, but it feels like you're taking a CFA like every week, and you're having to cram, and then next week it's a new thing, and we're cramming that.
And then we're going back to the previous week to reteach with kids
Yes.
that didn't master.
Yeah.
So it's just a constant
And
cycle.
the levels are very different as well.
Yeah.
So it makes it, even in my GT classes or my honors classes, my levels of kids are very drastic. Like I have kids who can't multiply or divide by 1-digit numbers. And then I have kids who can do it by 3-digit numbers. So that makes that gap even bigger because we can't multiply with decimals if we can't even multiply with 1-digit numbers. So it makes things a lot more interesting.
Well, and I think part of the problem is that like they can be taught a skill in a grade level and then they don't see it again for two more
Exactly.
grade levels. And then a lot of the stuff when it comes to testing, it's not just giving them the algorithm of multiply 24 times 27. It is embedded in a word problem. So if they can't read, they can't
Yes.
figure out the math. And so I think that's a big part of it is it does move so fast. And then it will skip. Like when I taught fourth grade, there was stuff in fourth grade that they won't see again until seventh. And so it's just that, I mean, it's not repeated and like we don't get to like, I mean, the spiral during the year is very, very hard because you are, okay, we have to hit this skill, we have to hit this skill. And so kids are getting lost because it's just so much. And then we're thrown into a humongous word problem.
So in my experience at Alcove Trails, I've noticed already early on, academic vocabulary is a big issue for these students and grasping it. And if that academic vocabulary conversations, they struggle with it here, they're struggling with it at home. So parents are, we all mentioned maybe they've graduated high school or they're working two jobs and are not home to support their kids and work through that. How could we partner with at-risk um, economically disadvantaged parents to try to give them some extra resources and supports that they can incorporate at home? What might that look like? And is that even achievable for us?
It can't be extra work.
No, and like at my previous school, the only homework I was assigned was Bible study. Because if it was any content that we were learning, they would throw it in a category. They wouldn't even put in the effort to do it, even like if there was effort, So homework is just like not an option because they're not,
Right.
or they don't have the time. And several kids, like, I mean, y'all already said this, but they go home and they have other responsibilities. They have to babysit, they have to, wash dishes, things like that.
I mean, like at our last campus, we had like literacy nights, but they were also talking about doing a math night. So parents could come and like, where at literacy night, they would do work on reading skills. We would specifically offer like, hey, we're gonna work on something and you can go visit with your kid's math teacher, see how it's being taught, ask questions to possibly help your kid at home. That was something they were working on. They did not do that before I left, but just like offering the parents an opportunity to come after school to see what's being taught in their kids' classroom.
What was the turnout? Was there?
We hadn't done it yet. They were.
Okay.
It's literacy nights.
Yeah, the elementary school I was at before I came here, we did literacy night too in the last year, I think. We also did math night. And at math night, they gave every parent that came like a set of dice and then a stack of playing cards. And they were given like a list, of things that they could do with those things, with those items to help kids master basic math facts.
But it sounds like wasn't like, felt like homework. It was fun activities.
Yeah, it was fun.
That were also curriculum based.
And so they went to booths or whatever and they would talk to, if your kid was in fifth grade, then you'd go to fifth grade. You'd get their paper printout or, and then we even went a step further in one of the booths was, how to use certain websites that we used at school. For instance, Progress Learning, where it's like, this is made for your kid, have them do X or whatever on Progress Learning, but we did do math night. I forgot about that. But we did reading night in the fall and then math night in the spring. And yeah, I think the takeaway was like flip printed out, do this game and there's some dice and there's some cards. And I don't remember all of what the games were, but it definitely, parents liked that.
Thank you for that. Checking on your time, 29 minutes. We're getting there, ladies. I know we've talked about our economically disadvantaged students, at-risk students. When you are working with a small group in class, can y'all talk about what that looks like in each of your classes? So whether you're remediating or it's a brand new content that you're bringing up, what does the day-to-day lesson look like in each of your content areas or classrooms?
It's like different in junior high than it is in elementary school. In
Yeah.
elementary school, you have your motion table and you call this group up because they all need to work on this skill, or they're grouped together because they all have mastered certain skills and you can build upon it. In junior high, a lot of those economically disadvantaged children, you're taking the time because for whatever reason, they missed a class period and we're checking to see what they don't have, or maybe they missed the assessment and they need to take it so that we can meet them where they are. It looks very different in junior high than it does in elementary school.
It's very difficult in 1 hour class to a small group.
Yeah,
It's
so
hard to make.
at my previous campus, we had a modified bell schedule where 3 days of the week, we saw all of our classes. And then we were block day on 2 of the days. So we would only see half of our classes, but for twice the amount of
Oh, wow.
time. So we did have that extra opportunity to work with students. So when working with your at-risk economically disadvantaged students, can y'all tell our group about Tiger Time and the purpose of it? How that is a great opportunity to work with that subgroup of students?
So Tiger Time starts the first day of school, and every kid has 7 classes a day. Tiger Time rotates through those classes. So day 1 is Tiger Time 1, day 2 is Tiger Time 2. So in some cases, they see every teacher, or they'll see a teacher twice a day, as they work through that rotation. In, I think next week, right? Next week, they start doing the House Bill minutes where they pull everybody to the cafeteria and they'll have specific items that they need to work on through IXL based on their needs. And our principal came today and asked us questions very much about how do we incentivize that to make them be productive during that Tiger Time. She hasn't gotten back to us on what that's gonna look like.
So if y'all were the ones, you were our principal, you were in charge of incentivizing that, a lot of those House Bill kids do come from at-risk, economically disadvantaged backgrounds. If you were the boss and you were in charge, what might it look like for you to help incentivize those kids to, show progress through IXL and work through those HB hours to kind of help fill in those gaps? How could you
Last year.
incentivize them?
We did incentives towards the end of the year to get ready for STAR.
Okay,
And so there's a thing on IXL, which is the program we use, that you can create a leaderboard that's real time up on the screen. And we would put that up and they'd have certain skills that they had to work on. And then we would tell, my top 3 at the end of the week. So at 4:00 on Friday, my top 3 will get a soda of their choice next week.
that's awesome.
Things like that. We would change the prize each week to something different like that. But they loved that because they could see it. It was competition, but they were still working on their own individual skills. If that makes
Yes.
sense, what they needed.
So they're seeing the leaderboard. They want their name to
They
be up
got
there.
really excited about that.
And it's also a motivating thing. If I saw Coach Baldwin, her name on there,
Right.
I want to beat her. So it just really pushes the kids.
But some are really competitive.
Like,
Even if they don't really want the prize, they just want
It's
to
just
beat
the-
somebody.
The
Yes.
pride of knowing that they.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. 10 more minutes. Can y'all talk about when you've worked with your economically disadvantaged students? Just tell me a situation where you had a really positive interaction whether it was academic based or whatever it may be, instructional based, just think about that aha moment that you've had in your teaching experience where, one of these kids who's, struggled for X amount of time, and then the light bulb just goes off and they get it, and explain what that was like for both you and the student. And please don't say student names, just,
It doesn't have to be academic? Or does it need to be?
no, it doesn't have to be academic based.
So last year I had a brother and a sister. Sister was in 7th grade, brother was in 6th grade. Had a great relationship with sister. Fantastic relationship. Like she even came dressed as me on Dress Like a Teacher Day. Brother was harder to win over, and his behavior landed him in a lot of ISS and DAB, not necessarily in my class, but in other classes or other places in the building. He ended up losing his laptop privileges for things using. Everything was just going in the wrong direction. And finally, when he made it back from DAP, I just went to him one day. I was like, dude, if you're having a bad day, I can't help you unless you tell me. Because you're just, it's just spiraling. Like if you come to me in the morning and you're fine, and then come to me in the afternoon and you're not fine, I don't know. I only have what I had from the beginning. And so he got to where he would meet me at the door and be like, it's an okay day, or it's not an okay day, or, hey, Miss Hanson, I need a minute. He got to where he would communicate, which I think was huge for him. Rather than, acting out, he could tell me. And to me, that was like, oh, this is a win. This is a big win.
And then he felt comfortable to tell you ahead of time up
Yeah.
front where he was at emotionally.
Yeah.
And because you had built that trust with him and created a safe environment where he felt it was okay to succeed
Yeah.
and do well and be successful.
But it was just so different to see they're literally a year apart, and how vastly different the relationship were that I had with each kid. So, but it felt like a win. When it was like, okay, I can do this. Okay, I'm gonna just take a time out or whatever it is gonna be. So
Last year I had this kid, he was like, Gene would be in a gifted program if that school had happened. But he was one of those kids that coming from grade level school, that he's just a problem child, just struggled with everything. And but even he had like ADHD that he wasn't on medicine, just stuff like that. So a lot of like factors fighting against him. But he was a problem for me all year long. And he promoted his 8th grade year last year and was like, Miss, we made it. And to this day, like he and I still keep contact. So it's like super fun. Just, yes, he was a pain to have in my classroom, but like we built that relationship and he grew, and it made me a better teacher. And so it made it worth it.
Yeah, I've got one of those. And so I had the kid
Yeah.
in 4th grade. He came to me. It was one of those things where it was a rough family situation. CPS was involved, all of those things. And when he came to me, they're like, he's not going to talk. He won't open up. Just be ready. And so it's one of those things that we worked because he's super smart. So we worked on his math. He got approaches, I think, that 4th grade year on his smart. 5th grade, he moved to a different campus, but he was at a friendship school. So he would message me in Schoology. Hey, I did this today on my math, or I did this. And he's actually in this building, and he came by and he came to our room today. So, it was just one of those things, watching him grow from not talking and not trusting anybody to now, like, I get messages from him in Schoology all the time. Hey, I did this. You're wrong about this in math. Crazy things like that. So, yeah.
So it sounds like from y'all's experience, just giving this group of kids just a little extra love and support really is all that a lot of them need. Maybe they're not being shown it at home or in another teacher's classroom, and it's all about us being intentional with each interaction with each child and really making the most of the time that we have when we're with them. We're almost there, ladies. So going forward, what are your goals this year with some of your economically disadvantaged students? Like, how do you want them to be successful? What is it that you want from them as far as achievement goes? What might that look like? And if you need to brainstorm for a second, that's fine. What are some goals you have for your economically disadvantaged students?
I think just for them to be able to see their own,
Yeah.
even if it's a little bit.
Even the tiniest of growth.
Yeah, for them to be able to see, I started here and I did this.
So, a side note, so our RLA teachers, we have 3 of them at our campus, and at the beginning of the school year, they worked with all of their classes to use a data tracker to track how they do on their MAP testing, their district assessment scores. Can y'all speak to that tracker and how might that help economically disadvantaged students, at-risk students, and anybody for that matter?
We just wanted a place where they could go into their folder, they could keep a record, so they could see a visual of their growth throughout the year. And so in Texas, we do approaches, needs, and masters, and so we wanted to kind of color code that and give them a visual, not just a number, but an actual color visual for them to see their progress throughout
That
the year.
growth over
Yeah.
time.
And to show them that everything has value that you do while you're here. It doesn't just come down to that, day where you felt like doing your work today or you didn't. Like, it's all gonna come together to give you an opportunity to show what you actually know or what you took away from them.
So y'all had students fill this out a few weeks ago. How often have students gone and filled it out in these first few weeks? Or is it just something we've not really dived into deep enough yet?
We haven't dived in as much yet, just because we haven't taken a district assessment.
Okay,
And so this week, we're taking ours. So after this week, then we're gonna pull that out. We're gonna report our data. And we just took math, so we're gonna put those scores in as well.
We did give them last year's MAP scores for both reading and math in there, so they have something to compare it to. So,
oh,
like,
that's great.
So we wrote reading and math map scores in their folder. So when they were writing in their reading and math that we took Friday and today, they're like, oh, I made this, or so they were able to kind of compare. Did I go way back to where I was at the beginning of 5th grade, or am I comparable to the end of 5th grade, or have I grown some? And so it's funny to hear them talk like, oh my gosh, I went back 1 point, and it's like, it's okay, you're still within that
You're
range
in
that we
that
want.
range.
But, the honors kids and GT kids, they're the ones that are like, oh my gosh, they're the most panicked, so,
Well, it's good for them to see like, oh, I just needed 1 more point and I would have been
yeah.
Right.
the next whatever.
And they
you know?
see that it's attainable
It's
and it's
attainable.
just not
Oh,
this hard number
Yeah.
that they feel defeat over looking at. And that was one thing that I enjoyed, because I've never administered math testing. It used to go through math and the RLA teachers, so I never had to administer it. So it was fun for me to see, and especially because the class that I had, all boys, and a lot of them did have that economically disadvantaged background. So when they're going to write down their score that they got and they're seeing on within the range, and it's just, you could see that they're like, okay, we're good. I can do this. This is great. All right, ladies, we're at 43 minutes. I believe we have hit our 40-minute minimum. So just want to say thank you to all of you for your time. This was a great conversation. Thanks for all of your efforts. And team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Team. Let me stop these. Thanks, y'all.
Well, you kept